Please be advised, if you have not seen the movie that is about to be reviewed in this video, uh, stop this video right now, go and watch the movie and then come back, because there are going to be massive plot spoilers throughout the course of this video. Welcome to another edition of the Video Vault. We've got a really special one this time around, because taking a look at not one, not two, but all three of the Star Wars prequels. These do cop a lot of flack from the hardcore elitists, but we'll get into that. But I have joining me on this edition of the Video Vault, you might recognize this guy from Grey Wolf Wrestling. Check out a couple of latest episodes at the minute, including his exclusive interview with Indy Hartwell and the latest episode of Reliving the War, which is the incredible Monday Night Wars between WCW and the WWF back in the 90s to 2001. That is WCW Spring Stampede 1997. The trim guy, Amin Azoor. Welcome to the Vault, brother.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Jay. It's a real pleasure to be on the Vault, and it's good to see the Vault back in action. Absolutely loved the first episode back of season 2. I think we'll call it season 2 because that seems a fitting way to do it. But man, absolute pleasure to be on the Vault, dude. And you are dead set right. We've got 3 what I think are underrated, but at the same time, how do we put it? They're scapegoat movies, don't you reckon?
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put them, as being the scapegoats of the entire franchise, really.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. But yeah, obviously we are talking about Star Wars. Now, this is something that just saying Star Wars will probably get us a lot of hate. Be like, oh, you called it Star Wars. You meant to call it the Star Wars saga. It's like, come on, guys. Like, can't we just enjoy everything for what it is?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's basically one big sort of, I guess I'll use the analogy of a book. We've got, all the way through from the Phantom Menace as the opening chapter to the Rise of Skywalker as the final chapter of the saga. It is just a beautifully done sort of piece of entertainment.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Joe. But look, before we get into the prequels, man, I think the best way to kick off this episode is to sort of see where we're all at with Star Wars fandom, because I don't know about you, but I jumped in about 1997. Remember when they re-released the special editions and it actually came back to cinemas?
Yeah, I do remember that. I actually have the tapes of those as well. Surprise. And yeah, I do remember that quite fondly.
I reckon that was probably, like, for a lot of people, especially our vintage, because, we weren't born in the 70s. We weren't there for the original in 1977. So for a lot of us, that was probably something that was pretty cool and pretty unique when it did come onto the scene.
Yeah, I've got to completely agree with you on that, man, especially just going and seeing these movies for the first time in the cinema itself is just an absolute experience. Like, I can get so envious of, the ones that saw the, A New Hope back in 77. You hear that fanfare and everything just going on. It's just a momentous occasion in itself. And here we are
40, 50 odd years later.
Yeah.
Look, maths is now strong suit here. We're not here to talk maths. It's not the maths vault. This is the video vault.
Yeah, that's definitely right. I mean, I got into Star Wars. I think it was about 1988. I think I wish Ned was here on this. He could have clarified this, because I think it was around at his place one New Year's Eve, and the original one was on TV, and we sat down watching that, and that pretty much hooked me right then and there.
It's funny that you mentioned things like, the old TV movies, because that's something that's a bit of a dying art at the moment, because a lot of people, especially of our vintage, sort of got into movies from when it was on, the telly. And
Yeah.
Like, for example, for me, and this would be a great video vault maybe somewhere down the track, but the Die Hard series, I first saw that on like Channel 7, Lord knows when, and that was the first time I ever saw it, and that sort of hooked me into that sort of storyline and that sort of universe. And it's pretty cool, like, because you're not going to be hearing that too much longer in the age of streaming and Netflix and all these catch-up services where people will discover stuff because they saw it on TV.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. And I think that's the sort of thing as well. Like when like you're a young kid, you don't really get to go to the cinema that much. So you do experience some of these movies for the first time on TV. And like when, especially because Star Wars have always been known to do midnight premieres. They didn't for the Rise of Skywalker here in Horsham anyway, but you go to something like that and it's just an experience in itself.
Yeah, it really was. And while the rate of technology and that society has really evolved so much, that's some things that I do miss, like the midnight screenings and movie marathons that they used to have at the cinemas back in the day. And I still remember um the the Revenge of the Sith premiere back in '05 when people were there. Like you could count people that were dressed as Darth Vader or they had their stormtrooper uniforms on and things like that. Just going to the movies, it was quite an event.
Yeah, it is. And like with the age of streaming, that's something we're going to see less and less of, especially like with all the COVID stuff in the minute where
Mm.
we've even got like MCU stuff just going straight to Disney Plus for, I think it's like an extra $30 or something.
Yeah. It's a bit of a shame that, but man, let's get into the let's talk about the prequels because like so '99 is when Phantom Menace first came out.
Yep, that is correct. I remember me, Ned, and his cousin Maddie Deckert. We went and saw this at the cinema, not at the midnight premiere. I think it was like a Saturday or something. But even then, like just the hype around it, like this is the big where it all began. Like this is how we see Anakin, and he becomes Darth Vader at the end, and just yeah, just the excitement looking forward to it. And you just feel like that little kid again, just like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I can't believe this.
See, I reckon that's one of the reasons why Phantom Menace gets so much hate because you'd probably know this too. Like there's a Phantom edit, which is basically a fan constructed sort of edit of the Phantom Menace, where it's how it's supposed to be. But this is the reason why I reckon so many people hate it because let's say Phantom Menace came out in 1999.
Yeah.
Jedi came out in '83. So you've got more than 10 years where people have been crafting in their mind, like, oh, this is what episode one's meant to be like. It's, and they've made their own narrative. And like, my backstory to how Anakin turned from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader could be very different from yours. But we're not George Lucas. We're not the ones with the vision. So I'm guessing a lot of people, when they walked into a cinema to see Phantom Menace, and the first thing they read in the crawl is trade tariffs and all this BS, they were probably just like, hang on, this isn't what I had in my head.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like the big thing. Like everyone goes in with these sort of ideals of what they're expecting, and it's just complete and utter disappointment when they don't get what they want. And
Yeah.
that's when you see like all the tirades and everything. Like if Twitter existed back then,
Oh, mate, it'd be savage.
It'd be savage. Like that's not hashtag not my Star Wars and all this other stuff. And the thing is, like, they do forget, like, yes, it's basically become like a cult like religion, the whole Star Wars fandom, but it is just, you've got to remember, they're movies. It's just entertainment. You go to have a good time. And I do know the big thing that annoys the hell out of a lot of people, I don't really care because I know this character is not aimed for my generation. Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, Jar Jar, man, boy, did Jar Jar cop a lot of the heat back then. And look, it was just a light-hearted character. I mean, these are probably the same people to an extent that also bashed the Ewoks for Jedi as well. Like, there's a whole heap of characters in the Star Wars universe and it's a galaxy far, far away. There could be there is a planet full of them, for crying out loud. So I see the hate that people went for Jar Jar. I think that they went a little bit overboard, because it's not like he was a major part of the story. I'm interested to get your thoughts on this one, though. One thing that I did get a little bit like, don't really like that one. What did you think of a young Anakin Skywalker building C-3PO?
It took me a little bit by surprise, actually, like how C-3PO was made. Like, I was sort of expecting, like, he's been built in this factory where, like, they made all the battle droids and everything like that.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
He was just sort of like, your run-of-the-mill sort of thing. You go down to a local dealer and get if you scrap for cash, you get the base model, and that's what I thought. But Anakin making 3PO, a little bit of a stretch, but
it's nothing that you'd jump on a forum and start rage posting at.
No, definitely not. And I try to keep all these as positive as possible. There are a couple little things that sort of make it not age very well, especially if you're watching it on VHS or on the original DVD release, and that is some of the CGI. Now, a lot of the CGI in this movie is incredible. Like, there's no way they could have done that back in, late 70s,
77, yeah.
Not a chance. But Yoda, the original CGI model of Yoda, it just didn't look right at all.
Well, that's actually the original, like the puppet Yoda, the one that was used in Empire and Jedi. Now, obviously, Empire, like, that's the reason it looks so haggard, because it is the same Muppet that is used in Empire and in Return of the Jedi. Actually, they dug it out of a cupboard somewhere and used it. Thankfully, in like the re-releases, so like in this little bad boy that's sitting behind me, and subsequent sort of DVD releases, they have added in the CGI, a brand new CGI Yoda. But you're right, that original Yoda, the original puppet, it needed at least an update. I get it. They probably did it because, like, oh, look, how cool is it that the original puppet that we used in the original trilogies back in the prequel, but if it spent 30 years in the back of someone's ute, get a new one.
Yes, it's not gonna look the best. It'd be like trying to make a new Jaws movie today using the shark from 1975. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, exactly. But man, what did you think about the little things? The two other big things that sort of jumped off of the page at me was Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, like a young Padawan, and Qui-Gon Jinn.
Personally, I think they were both perfectly cast for that. Especially, you've got Ewan McGregor as the young Obi-Wan. He's still learning everything, and you've got Liam Neeson, the hardened veteran, as Qui-Gon, just trying to impose all this knowledge, and can be a little bit rebellious in wanting to take Anakin on as another apprentice. But that was a casting choice that I think they got really, really perfect. You couldn't get anyone better than those two for those roles.
Yeah, they nailed it out of the park with that one. And I remember sort of seeing, like, Ewan McGregor, when you saw what Alec Guinness looked like as Obi-Wan in the original trilogy, you can sort of see, if you somehow made your mind work, and you picture, well, what would Obi-Wan look like if he was a younger, fresher cat? And they nailed it with Ewan McGregor. Like, he got the mannerisms down so good too. His cadence, everything about him was just so spot on. And that's a real testament to Ewan McGregor, I thought. And you're right about Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, getting Liam Neeson to be a Jedi Master is one of the cool, like, it sounds like something that you'd put in some fan fiction, but man, did it work.
It did. It worked really well. The same as, like, who would have thought Samuel L. Jackson would have been in any of the Star Wars movies? But again, that was another well done.
Mace Windu, severely underrated character.
Very, very underrated. So what some of the sequences throughout the movie that sort of really grabbed you pretty much the first time you saw them?
So the first ones that really sort of stood out to me were when you see Anakin, like the tiny boy Anakin, back in Tatooine, in the desert, in like with his mother and stuff like that, because it harks you back to the original. It takes you back to where you first met Luke Skywalker and all of those little things. And it sort of, I thought it really like put a real nice sort of thread. It threaded the movies together a little bit, like between the prequels and the originals, because you were kind of taken back. That was a familiar place. That was a very familiar place. And I thought that they did that really, really good. And you sort of see that, yes, he was but a little, poverty-stricken slave boy that then became, Darth Vader, which is an incredible narrative.
Yeah, very much so. And it also plants the seeds to, his eventual becoming of Darth Vader, like having this rough sort of upbringing, like, being a slave, going through all these hard times, and just you sort of connect a little bit more with Vader as he is, as we know him anyway from the originals. Like, he's gone through all this trauma, all this sort of anguish and hardship that's made him into what he is.
Yeah, very much so. And like you also see more important, something else that sort of sows the seeds just a little bit, the love and the relationship that he has with his mother, because that is something that spoiler alert, when his mother does get killed, you can sort of see that this is Anakin Skywalker has so much good in him. The trigger that turns him over to the dark side is the loss of a loved one, or the thought of a loss of a loved one. And also in the same time too, that's the thing that brings him back, because it's in Jedi, when Palpatine's there about to kill his son, that's when it sort of kicks in again, and he's like, no, I can't let this happen. So all in all, like for a saga about Anakin Skywalker, like we see, and one of the things that are the main sort of telling points of the Star Wars saga is family, love, and good versus evil, and how it's not quite black and white.
Yeah, exactly. There's like so many different shades of gray in there, or everything's from a certain point of view, as we Alec Guinness says in Empire, when obviously Luke finds out that Leia is his sister. It's like, everything I told you was true from a certain point of view. So
Correct.
we sort of get that sort of little tie in there as well. And you did say, like, it interweaves everything together really well, which is what a movie franchise should do. Like, each movie interweaves to what's coming next.
Yeah, the next one, yeah. And another cool thing too is, like, we also sort of see that so when we start off with the Phantom Menace, we're told there's good, evil, Jedi, Sith. There's no middle ground in between at all. But as it sort of goes through, and you see characters like Jango Fett come in there, General Grievous, all of these guys introduced, you sort of see that it's not quite as clear cut as you're either with the Jedis or you're with the Sith, because in the case of Jango Fett, like he's a bounty hunter, yes, but he's not a bad guy. He's only made to be a bad guy in certain circumstances. And we'll get to it when we talk about Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But when you see the clone troopers, they're originally good guys until we get to Order 66. Then they become bad guys.
that's exactly it. There is no black and white. There is that huge middle ground, and we see characters swap back and forth, as you said. The stormtroopers start out, as good guys, helping the Empire, helping the Jedi and the Republic, and then Order 66 and flip the script and everything.
It's
like that.
literally like you said, it's the script, bam, and it's straight. They're evil all of a sudden, which is pretty cool. But other things that sort of stood out, and you can't mention the Phantom Menace without talking about this, but this is something that everyone agreed with: the pod race.
Yes, exactly. One of the best sequences in the whole movie. So good, in fact, they made a game out of it. So
yeah.
There's some good marketing there, but that just the way that was done is just incredible. Like it's fast paced. You're gripped to the edge of your seat. You know, you've got this feeling inside. You know, this is going to be the time he's going to get there and and win the thing. But there are little moments of doubt where you think, oh no, hang on, he may, it may not happen.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just such a cool visual, and it's something that we haven't seen yet in a Star Wars film or since, like a high speed sort of high risk chase sort of scene, because we see stuff like that in all these movies from that era. Like, obviously there's an entire franchise built on the Fast and Furious over things like that, but stuff where it's literally like, split second sort of make a mistake and you're dead kind of thing. Like that is very cool, and we haven't seen it since in the Star Wars universe.
No, you're absolutely right there. We haven't seen anything like that since. Another really good one is what I think of the it's basically been coined the Duel of Fates, which sort of also can be a bit of a starting trigger point for when Anakin turns to the dark side as well, I think. For those that aren't sure what it is I'm talking about, it is the lightsaber duel between Darth Maul against Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. This thing is almost, I say almost, the ultimate of lightsaber duels. I will get into the one I think is a little bit later on, but how fantastic was that done?
These, first off, the set piece, the set that they're actually doing it in the ship, awesome, because the visuals take you back to inside the Death Star sort of thing, like from Jedi and all of the original trilogy. That part is really cool. The intensity, and this is the thing that I also love too. Throughout another undercurrent of the Star Wars films, which not a lot of people sort of bring up too much, is just how powerful the Sith is. Like we see even in the most recent films, Vader gets the job done on his own. At the end of Jedi, who's in the TIE fighter going out there? He's not barking orders like a Bond boss or like or sending out henchmen. Vader gets in that TIE fighter and he starts, taking care of business.
Yeah.
Darth Maul being able to handle a Jedi Master and Obi-Wan with the dual lightsaber as well. It is so well done, and that's one thing that I will say I think is a valid criticism of Phantom Menace. We needed more Darth Maul. Darth Maul needed a little bit more of a fleshed out story in this, especially if we're going to put him on par with Darth Vader or Darth Sidious.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that. And I do think that if you've seen like the Star Wars Rebels or Clone Wars, like you get that little bit more of a backstory, but it would have been good to have a lot more of that in the movie, have him sort of fleshed out a little bit more instead of Darth Sidious's puppet.
Yeah, exactly. And we see it a little bit later on with Count Dooku. Like we get to know him a little bit more. Like he's not just there for, bits and pieces, and like we actually know his character. Same with General Grievous. We learn all these little things about all these other quote unquote enemies, but with Darth Maul, it's almost just like, oh, that's Darth Maul. You should know that one. He's a Sith.
There.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Definitely agree with you on that. So there's a couple little nitpicks, but still.
But but all in all, I thought it was a pretty good movie. When I left the cinema, I wasn't ready to go to everyone going, oh man, that was a waste of time. I was pretty pumped.
Yeah, definitely. Same as you. Like, I got out. It's like, I want to see that again. I think that's pretty much.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what I've done with every Star Wars movie, but yeah.
We sort of touched on it. That also it's been more than a decade since the last Star Wars movie, so this was mega hype. Like if you weren't around in 1999, I know that there's a lot of hype for things like Avengers Endgame when it came out and things like that. But this was insane. Everything was Star Wars. Buses had Star Wars on the side of it. Slurpees had Star Wars on it. Anything you can think of that you could slap a Star Wars logo on, magazines, books, posters, these things, you could go into a Kmart and half of an aisle, in fact, all of an aisle would just be Star Wars stuff. That's how massive it was.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was everywhere, even soda bottles and cans, and just everything, shirts, hats, whatever, everything that could plant Star Wars on, games, consoles, whatever, it was on there.
Which was kind of cool because, I'd love it if we were able to get back to a time like that. But hey, as you said, things have changed a little bit. But yeah, look, I'm not going to say that The Phantom Menace is in a series that has got 9 movies in it. I can't say that it's in the top 5 or anything, but it's certainly not the worst thing that the Star Wars franchise has put out.
No, definitely not. Got to agree with you on there. So let's go along to Attack of the Clones.
Now, that's where my opinion changes a little bit because I detest this film. I cannot stand Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones, to be quite honest, Jay, Attack of the Clones is one of the only DVDs I've ever fast forwarded.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that because there is a lot in this movie that is very, very forgetful. Like, Revenge of the Sith, heaps of stuff that stands out in that. Phantom Menace, there's a lot of great stuff that stands out in that, like the Duel of Fates, the pod racing, getting to meet Anakin. This one is just sort of there.
There's more stuff in Attack of the Clones that I can think that I don't like. Like, it starts off really great, like the inner city chases and stuff like that. Just how they've sort of set up the universe is really, really cool. I thought that Hayden Christensen, he gets a lot more hate than I think he deserves as a sort of rebellious young Anakin.
Yeah.
Sorry, younger Anakin, like a teenage angsty Anakin. But like that all doesn't deserve the hate. But little things like the scenes. Now, Hayden Christensen, he gets a lot of hate for his portrayal of Anakin Skywalker, but I think he nailed it pretty well. Like, I can't picture, if in my mind, if I close my eyes, I see Anakin Skywalker as Hayden Christensen, and I'm glad that he's going to be reprising his role as Anakin in like the EU that's coming out a little bit later on. But for crying out loud, the scenes with him and Padme are just so mind-numbing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely sort of the ones you just want to skip because even though they do sort of lead a little bit into the later narrative of like how they end up with Luke and Leia, but there's just a lot of stuff in there that can be just fast forwarded, as you said. And also, Anakin does not Anakin, Hayden Christensen does get a lot of flack for his portrayal of Anakin in this movie, but you got to remember, an actor is only as good as the script and what their director tells them to do.
Yeah, correct.
If George Lucas has said to him, this is what I want you to do, it's like, even if it is campy in that, look, the amount of money you're getting paid, you're not going to say, no, I don't think that'll work. You'll just go, all right, I'll hire somebody else.
And you're not going to tell George Lucas, the guy who built this franchise, how to do his job. I know a lot of people on the internet think that they can, but it's just not one of those things that you can do.
No, definitely.
And one cool thing I will mention though about Attack of the Clones, because that was filmed in Sydney, like at Fox Studios. That's kind of cool how like it's got that Australian feel to it. You see a couple of Aussie actors in there as well. But one cool thing that I absolutely loved about Attack of the Clones is it really set up what the Republic was like. Like it seemed like such a cool. I don't know, but it painted the picture. It almost put that era of the Republic, because we're used to seeing it in the entire Star Wars franchise in the original trilogy. It's fallen. The Empire controls everything. Yeah. It was once great, once ever, but like we see the Republic in Attack of the Clones, a bustling metropolis. It almost looks a little bit Blade Runner-y. Like, it's very cool. It's very futuristic, and I thought that part's pretty cool, especially when you see, because we've never seen the Republic like that in the Star Wars franchise yet.
No, we haven't. We've only just sort of heard like what the Republic was like, and to actually see that as like this bustling metropolis, it is a
with bars and things like that.
Yeah, it is a really, really cool thing. And like we get the introduction of, I guess, what a character that's sort of become a bit of a cult sort of favorite of the Star Wars franchise, and that is Boba Fett. But we see him as the son of Jango Fett, the bounty hunter, and it's a really cool way to sort of introduce what becomes the probably most beloved character of the entire franchise, besides maybe Han Solo.
Yeah, yeah. If Han Solo and Boba Fett, I mean, like, well, let's put it this way: no one's out there with like, really championing Lando Calrissian or doing cosplays as C-3PO. Everyone wants to be Boba Fett. Everyone wants to be Han Solo. Like, and we just got to see the success of the Mandalorian just to see how much mileage you get from not just pretty much the Boba Fett spin-offs. Like, but one cool thing, as you mentioned there, Jay, like this was a really cool little nod to the people that were there from the start of the original. When you sort of see the introduction of Jango Fett, you got, hang on, Jango Fett, where's this going? And then you find out, oh, this is Boba Fett's father, and the little backstory there. I thought that was a pretty cool little introduction.
Yeah, that was a really cool introduction, and just sort of like the way that the stormtroopers actually came about. They weren't just sort of mindless, faceless, soldiers that followed orders. Like, you got their origin, like they're clones. They're, free forming. They're thinking, yes, they follow commands, but they still. I don't know. Just trying to think. What's the word I'm looking? They're still.
Well, they're not. They're not just like, because when you see the stormtroopers in pretty much the entire trilogy, in the entire original trilogy, they're basically foot soldiers. Like, they're cannon fodder. That's what they are. Whereas here they're actually portrayed as actual soldiers of fortune kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely the best way to put it. They're just basically like the foot soldiers in the original trilogy, cannon fodder. But I do want to get into, like, one of the probably better sequences is when Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan are about to be sort of executed, and there's this massive showdown with the Jedi and the droid army. I thought that was really well done. And then, here come the clone troopers in action, and then the introduction of Count Dooku is just absolutely phenomenal. Christopher Lee did a perfect job. Like, you couldn't get anyone better as Dooku.
And that leads us to something else which blew everyone's mind, at least back in 2002. Now, I remember going back to school, and this is 2002, so I'm in year 12, and people were just losing their mind over Yoda versus Count Dooku, because we had never seen Yoda. Like, every time we've seen Yoda beforehand, in Phantom Menace, we see him like as that frail guy at the head of the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
When I say frail, I mean it's because the puppet was the original one from the movies. They since rectified that in the later revisions, like the DVD one and the special editions and all that. When we're introduced to him in Empire, he's in hiding. In Jedi, he's on his last legs. So when we actually see peak Yoda and then take it to a guy like Dooku and basically bounce off the wall like an Energizer bunny having a lightsaber fight, this is something that I think everyone loves so much, is because in our minds, when we were, I mentioned how in Phantom Menace, we all had in our brains an idea of what the saga would look like. I think we all in our minds had this thought of like, oh, well, if Yoda was going to ever throw down and wield a lightsaber, it'd look like this. And I think that's what we all pictured, and that's what we all got.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, because I remember seeing that at the midnight premiere, and just when that whole sequence started, the pop, to use a wrestling term, that the audience gave out was just phenomenal. Just like, this is what they'd wanted to see the whole time, is wise old Yoda, the ass kicker.
Yeah, Yeah, just taking it, absolutely like demolishing the Sith. Like he's talking about this do or do not, there is no try. There was no try here. He absolutely went to town. And you mentioned on the topic of that, just that huge battle between the Jedis and the droid army. I mean, like at this point in time, we haven't really seen the droids as, you know, evil.
Yeah,
Like
we've never really seen them as an imposing threat. Only just like from what briefly in the Phantom Menace, which was just more like the comic relief
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And I think this one, especially some of the bigger, bulkier, Terminator-y looking ones, you could just tell like these are an absolute threat and menace.
But yeah, this was pretty cool. But look, all in all, I didn't leave Attack of the Clones with the same sort of like euphoria I had when I left Phantom Menace. Maybe it was also because I was a little bit older too. You know, I was like that was 2002, so you know
Yeah,
a lot changes between in 4 years, 3 years give or
but yeah,
take. Yeah, and so because of that, like you go in with a bit less expectations, I guess, than you did with Phantom Menace because you sort of see how it's going to come along. But all in all, like unfortunately, out of the 9 films that did come out, I put Attack of the Clones well towards the back end of the pile. There are some great moments in it, but it doesn't stand out as one that I tell, you know, if there's a Star Wars fan out there that can put that as their number one movie, all power to them. But for me, I think there's just so much better out there, and
yeah,
we've seen it too.
yeah, definitely is like I'm the same as you. I'd put that more in the lower end of the spectrum as well. This is like any Star Wars fan that does sort of put that up the very top. It's like, oh, hey, that's your prerogative. Dig what you dig, but
Yeah, hell yeah. Like if you enjoyed it, then good on you, man. Like maybe we're probably, you know, different strokes to different folks, but yeah, for me, look, I wasn't disappointed, but I was just like, oh man, like okay, well, in a way, the way that I sort of let this one off the hook a bit is it's the second movie in the second trilogy. So it's a bridge the gap kind of thing. It's got to fill in. It's got to wrap up some loose ends of the first one and lay some foundations for the next one.
yeah,
So maybe it doesn't quite seem to find its identity like Menace or Sith does.
yeah, definitely got to agree with you on that. It's just sort of lost in the middle, but it does wrap up loose ends and
Mm.
lays down the foundation for what is going to happen in Revenge of the Sith. Probably the one with the highest level of anticipation in all the prequels, really. And holy hell, did it deliver! There is so much in this to take in as well, but we get the ultimate payoff to what we're building towards, Anakin's turn to Darth Vader.
This is going to be a very controversial thing, and please don't leave any hate in the comments. We just don't want it. But I like this film a lot more than Return of the Jedi.
Oh, there's
Like,
going to be I can tell you what, I haven't even posted this yet, and already I can hear the elitist fanboys going, "How can you like this more than Jedi?" Blah 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 blah.
but hear me out. I absolutely love Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith, I have seen countless amounts of times. So much so, I own the book for Revenge of the Sith. I've got a Vader um, basketball jersey when it came out for Revenge of the Sith. Like this was just this was the ultimate of the prequels. This is what we were all built to. And at the time, now obviously since 2005, we've all learnt a lot of lessons since then, but this was billed as this will be the final Star Wars movie ever. After this is done. This is the entire saga. And then obviously we know that the third trilogy came out, and we'll touch that in a later edition. But man, I don't know where to start with Revenge of the Sith. Like it's just it works out so good. And we talk about how Attack of the Clones it started off behind the 8 ball because it had to bridge a gap between these two. You want to talk about bridging a gap? This Revenge of the Sith had the hardest job of all, linking up to the original trilogy.
Yeah, definitely. Like there was a lot of expectations. This is the final chapter of the prequels. We've got a massive gap to link to A New Hope, and it delivered. I mean, that opening battle sequence is just absolutely amazing. All the visual effects on that. We see General Grievous wielding, 4 different lightsabers and just being menacing, or a coughing, wheezing menace, but still that dark, sadistic sort of undertone is throughout that whole movie, and it is pretty much the perfect sort of way to accumulate Anakin becoming Vader.
The other part too, talking about General Grievous, there's that scene where they sort of rip apart his armor a little bit, and you see like his beating heart and stuff like that. And that scene always stands out to me because it's just kind of like, because it shows everyone in the Star Wars universe, no one except for maybe the Emperor. Darth Sidious probably is the most purest of evil there, but everyone has a slight bit of good in there. Like
Yeah.
Count Dooku has a slight bit of, like, the bit where he gets. That just reminded me, and I'm jumping all over the place here, but when he gets executed by Anakin, like the cross lightsaber and the straight like that. That is such a cool scene, and that sort of shows, like, Jedis don't kill in cold blood, but Anakin Skywalker isn't like any other Jedi that we've ever seen before. Hence, all the risks of getting him on board. He's the one that's meant to bring balance to the Force, and I want to pause and just focus on that line a little bit. He's the one that's meant to bring balance to the Force, okay? Because that is a very big part of the narrative in this film.
Yeah, a very huge narrative. Well, actually, pretty much throughout the entire franchise, really. Like, Anakin being the one to bring the balance to the Force is just. It just leaves it open to, like, well, how does he obliterate both Sith and Jedi, and then there's just the one, the central balance, or what? Like, they never really explain that. But just the look on Count Dooku's face before he is executed is just it's very remorseful.
Yeah.
As well as oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. And it goes to show too just how I don't want to say bloodthirsty, but how much more darker the ways of the Sith are compared to the Jedi. Like, there seems to be a lot more compassion in the Jedi ranks, because at that point in time, Dooku sort of realizes, like, oh damn, my time's up here. And unfortunately, with the Sith rule of 2, it only ends one way. One of you dies, and you get replaced by someone else.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only absolute in Star Wars saga, and we all know the Sith deal in absolutes. Well, there's no other absolute to that than that, is there?
And it's so crazy too, because and the cool thing is about this movie is when the Jedi just realize how stuffed they are, just like, we have let the Sith bubble and grow. Like, we didn't even know about it until it was way too late. What the hell do we do? There is no hope. Hence the term A New Hope for episode number 4. But this is the thing I love about this movie is it is so dark. It's not a feel-good movie. This is not a feel-good movie by any means, but you are on the edge of your seat every step of the way, because you're trying to think, because in your mind, this is one of the few movies where you go in with a spoiler. Darth Vader is going to come back at the end of this film. Somehow in the credit, before the fisheye shuts and we roll to credits, we know that Darth Vader's coming back. We just don't know how he's coming back.
Yeah, exactly. And like, pretty much as you see in any sort of movie, like what is it? The fastest road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that's sort of a little bit with what Anakin sort of does in a way. Like, he's got these good intentions, like he wants to, save people from dying, and leads him down this, dark, twisted, demented path. Is like,
he wants to do everything that's best for his wife and for his upcoming family.
Yeah, he does. And it's like the only way to learn, the power to save someone's life. You can't learn that from a Jedi. And I think it was that sentence which pretty much, I think, for the whole audience would have cemented Palpatine that's who, there's Sidious. There he is.
Another bit too is the manipulation by Darth Sidious is just so good. Like the Emperor does so well here, especially, and it's the sort of mind control that he has on Anakin, to the point where where there's this scene where Mace Windu confronts him,
Yeah.
and Anakin has a choice. Like, do I help Mace Windu because Mace Windu's talking sense here, or do I go with my friend, the senator, who is like this? Like he needs to be put on trial. He needs to do this, and we see here Mace Windu like, no, this is too dangerous to be put through the dangerous channels. I have to kill him now, which is something that a Jedi would never say. That just shows you how dangerous that situation was.
Yeah, you can easily see that inner conflict just resonating on Anakin's face. Like, oh, what do I do? Do I do the right thing? Go with the Jedi way? Or, Mace Windu, as you said, is talking absolute complete sense. He is too dangerous because Palpatine controls everything. He is too much of a great threat. And yeah, you can just see that eternal struggle in Anakin's mind, even when he ignites his saber and lops off Windu's hand. He's just like, what have I done? Like this instant remorse, like why did I do this?
Yeah, hell yeah. And from that moment onwards, we sort of see that the movie takes such a turn for the worse for the Jedi. I mean, we touched on it briefly when we're talking about Attack of the Clones, but probably one of the most iconic lines in all Star Wars lore: execute Order 66.
Yeah. Come on now, who hasn't said that to Siri or Alexa or Google?
Now, this also goes to show too, like the mere fact, and it shows. I mentioned how this is the movie where the Jedi find out that they've been caught off guard, that the Empire's been building, because the senator knows at this point in time, like this has been his plan all along. He's always been Palpatine. He like when the clones are actually made, they are made by the Republic on behalf of the Republic, with this order implemented in them somewhere along the line. So this is how deep this plan has gone along. So once that switch is flicked, that's it. It just exterminates the Jedi.
Yeah, it does. And that sort of terrifying music that you sort of hear throughout that whole sequence, it just captures you just in shock and awe, like, oh, how could this have happened? And as you said, like the seeds have been planted so deep that somewhere there's like a control chip or something. As soon as execute Order 66 is said, bang, they flip the switch and it's just extinction basically for the Jedi, except for two of them.
And another thing too, with after that scene, all of those that's kills in cold blood. Like, how bad are these are just ambushes, just attacks. Like it's soulless. It's just straight kills.
Yeah,
which is just so dark for a Star Wars movie. It's essentially a family franchise.
It is. You got this family franchise in Star Wars, but then yet you've got this extremely dark, twisted sequence that happens, even with the slaughtering of the younglings.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Who would have thought that would ever happen? Star Wars kills kids.
Yeah. It's madness. But there's a scene, and I can't remember which. I don't know the name of the Jedi, but the female one, the blue one with the.
Oh yeah. Someone in the comments, can you let us know?
You're like, look, we're not that into Star Wars lore that we know. The guy that lived next door to Obi-Wan in Cloud City. Okay, we're not that deep into it, but to me, that is still one of the biggest scenes. Like when she turns around and just sees a bunch of clone troopers with their blasters pointed at her, and she just has a face of I'm just screwed.
Yeah,
And then all you hear is the like that is
yeah,
such a horrendous scene.
it is. It is without doubt the darkest scene in the entire franchise, which and then leads us up to I made light to this earlier when we were talking about the Duel of Fates, what I consider to be the best lightsaber duel. It's all building up Anakin versus Obi-Wan. This thing is perfect.
Yep. Yeah, I cannot fault you there. If you can find a better lightsaber duel in the Star Wars trilogy, in the Star Wars all 9 movies, I'd love to hear what it is. But in terms of story, in terms of the setting, and everything is just so cool in this one. And a little fun fact, but I don't know. Look, this might be a fact that's negated now by the 3 following films that came out since The Force Awakens. But this is the only time we've ever seen in the Star Wars universe two lightsabers of the same color going against each other.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever been seen. It's either usually like blue against red or green against red or
Yeah,
purple.
but this is the first time that we're seeing 2 lightsabers of the same color go at each other at the same time. But man, and you're right though, Herbs. Like this is one of the coolest fights too, because I think there's just so much emotion behind it too.
Yeah, there's a heap of emotion behind this. Ewan McGregor says it best when he shouts out, "You are my brother, Anakin. I loved you." Like
Yeah,
that feeling of ultimate betrayal from someone that, was a brother that you respected them so much. And to be put into a situation where you've had to do this is
yeah,
just,
and
there's
it
no
also goes
way.
to show.
Yeah,
It also goes to show too as well. Like one other thing that it shows is there's also still a level of arrogance with Anakin at the moment. Like he's not quite like it's a bit of controversy there where it's just like, remember early in the movie where Mace Windu says to him, and this really rubs Anakin up the wrong way, just like, we'll let you sit at the council, but we do not.
But we don't grant you the title of master. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a reason. It's because of things like this, not because he's, about to turn to the dark side and embrace the Sith, but this is it's purely because he still can't quite make those decisions. He makes snap judgments. He doesn't quite have that sort of level of zen that a Jedi Master would, and we see that when he yells at Obi-Wan, and he's just like, you underestimate my power, and it's just like, dude, this is the guy that essentially almost took you under his wing and gave you everything that you need, and you're yelling at him like a spoilt 2-year-old. Like, come on.
Yeah. Definitely agree with you on that. Just like the build up. And I think also another reason why Mace Windu never granted the title of master as well, because he could sense like there was that anger inside Anakin stemming back from, as you alluded to earlier, when his mother was killed by the Sand People or the Tusken Raiders. For
Yeah.
in the comments, we know they're the Tusken Raiders, but you watch the original, they're referred to as Sand People. That's the trigger moment. That's where he starts to give into his anger and just lets it take control.
Yeah, he fully embraces it. And the other really iconic scene is when he leads all of the clone troopers up to the Jedi Temple. Like he's got the hood on and everything, and he's just marching with the deadest look and this look of evil on his face. Like it was such a gradual sort of decline into, like, Anakin Skywalker is dead. This is Darth Vader. Like,
Yeah, Anakin
there's
is.
no questions there.
Yeah, Anakin's no more. This is purely and simply Vader. And you go, man.
Oh, well, and just the other thing too is, how when he tells Padme of what he's done and all this sort of stuff, and the way she backs away from him and essentially calls him a monster. Like, just he's lost to rage. And this is what's trying to be established throughout the entire prequel trilogy is like the Sith feeds on anger. The Sith is just feeds on hate. And at this point in time, like Anakin's wife, Padme, like she is the thing that he holds most true and dear.
Yeah.
And he is lashed out at her purely because of that Sith influence.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think they're like at that point as well, when he's saying to Padme what he's done, and you see that
I did it all for you, like
did it all for you, but you see that look of fear, which pretty much is synonymous with in the later movies when anyone says the name Darth Vader, you get that look of absolute fear and terror.
Yeah, indeed. And like that's the thing. When we finally get to that epic sort of lightsaber duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan, Anakin's a man with nothing to lose here. He knows he's put all of his chips on the Sith side. Like, that's about it. He's gone all in on black, basically.
Literally. And yeah, it's like he's fighting. It's like, I've got nothing left to lose. I've got everything to prove. That, and again, like he's doing it out of the goodest of intentions, wanting to save his wife, wanting to save his family, but it has led him down to that sort of very dark, anger-filled path, which after the duel leads us to the ultimate moment where we finally see suited Anakin for the first time. Well, if you're watching in chronological order, it's the first time.
Before we get to that bit, I don't know about you, but how gut-wrenching is that when Obi-Wan just basically slices him limb from limb and leaves him to death? Just him, the screams of pain and the burning, and you're just like, oh man, like you effed up. You really effed up here, Anakin.
Yeah, that was a real heart-wrenching moment, because he's just pretty much Obi-Wan's just given up on Anakin. He knows he's beyond redemption, so he's hoping that he'll just slide into the lava and that'll be the end of it.
That'll be that, yeah.
No, actually, both of them sort of messed up.
Yeah.
A bit really.
Obi-Wan did the old Batman in the Dark Knight sort of thing, where it's like, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And now we get the Joker.
Yeah. But man, like the cool thing is, like when you see the construction of Darth Vader, like first off, the pain that the screams and the yelling of Anakin as he's literally having his human self turn into a machine.
Yeah, just having all these robotics just painfully added, put onto his body, and then we see the ultimate, here comes the helmet. And you get that infamous breathing mechanism.
Yeah. Before we while we talk about this scene, we have to touch on this. What did you think about the giant no?
Oh God. That, to be honest, that scene could have done without it.
It could have. It
could
have
done without it. The no is basically the same as when they re-released Return of the Jedi in later years, and they put that sound in when he's lifting Palpatine up. But also as well, like it's like McClunky. It doesn't need to be there. It could have just done so much without it, even though there's still that little bit of Anakin in him, or he's crying out in that sort of anguish and disbelief.
It's like no, she was. Oh, this was meant to save her. She was meant to be all right. And then when you see him essentially destroy the entire lab with the Force, like leave it at that. That's all good. Something that's underrated though in that scene, Palpatine just sort of standing there, like grinning away, because he knows very well that Padme's alive. Like
Yeah.
he knows
Well,
all this sort of stuff.
at that point, anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So, look, the no, that's it's a little bit on the side, but you can, if this was a meal, you'd push that part aside and eat around it. But
Yeah.
that's the only downside I can take from that.
Yeah, definitely. That's the only one. And then I've got to actually sort of mention like um the whole Padme losing the will to live.
Mm, mm.
Uh,
Yeah, it doesn't quite sit
it,
right, does it?
no, it doesn't sit right at all. Like, yeah, I get, she's completely and utterly heartbroken that, the man that she loves, her husband, has gone down this very dark path. Anakin Skywalker is practically dead.
Mm.
And just yeah, just kind of rubs the wrong way a little bit. Again, it's like the no, it could have been done without.
And look, it is just one of those little nitpicks there. But hey, look, it's not a big movie ruiner, but it is one of those ones where you sort of like, probably didn't need that bit.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not like you just build to this ultimate moment and then it just turns to caca like that. It's just that, just a couple little sequences that just, didn't really need to be there. But when you do see the funeral procession, you feel the impact of that loss. You can feel like everyone's gutted and completely heartbroken that Padme is gone, and we see how Luke and Leia end up.
Mm-hmm. And another like part of that is, look, if A New Hope wasn't already out, that'd be the biggest downer to end on. It's the worst. Like, talk about leaving the cinema on oh man, that was a real buzzkill. It almost rivals, and don't come up here in the comments, but it almost rivals the end of Empire, because Empire is so dark towards the end that you're just like, well, great, we're all screwed now.
Yeah, exactly, and that's probably why, like, you'll see like Revenge of the Sith and Empire sort of up there in those upper echelon, because they're so well done. Yes, they are incredibly dark movies, and they do bring you down a bit at the conclusion. But you know that when the next movies come along, you're back up again. You're back up. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. Also, one of the coolest scenes in that ending sequence is Palpatine and Darth Vader both watching the Death Star being constructed.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And the perfect shot to end the prequel trilogies on. You couldn't get a better shot than that.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, your sort of overall grading, what would you give the prequels as a whole? We're not going to do individual movies.
Look, as a whole, if we're giving the original trilogy, like I'm talking A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, if we're giving that an A, this at least has to get a B plus. It's not perfect, but at the thing that's really lets down all three movies is Attack of the Clones. That really brings the grade down. Like, this isn't a super duper. This isn't going to be the same sort of thing. It's not the same iconic level as the original trilogy was, because you can never replicate that. You can never replicate the originals. It's simple as that. It's sort of like in the same vein that, like, so the first WrestleMania, the first three WrestleManias are iconic, but funnily enough, the second WrestleMania is always crapped on, and no one ever talks about it. It's always the first and the third. The second one never just works out fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the fact it took place in 3 separate cities and the same night.
Yeah, it's always that. But look, actually, B's probably a bit too much. I'm going to say, if we take out Attack of the Clones, it's a definite B for the prequels. Attack of the Clones brings that down to a C plus.
Yeah, look, I've got to agree with you on that, because you look at the second movie of the original trilogy, Empire Strikes Back. that is without doubt, in my opinion.
Takes up another notch.
It does, and that is the best movie in the whole franchise. I know there's probably some furries out there that love the Ewoks. All power to you. This is just my personal opinion. Don't come at me. But yeah, just Attack of the Clones is just, again, a real reversal to what Empire was. If you're looking at second chapters, and it does definitely bring it back down to, yeah, definitely a definite C plus from
all in all though, like, look, if you're one of the few people that maybe haven't seen the prequel trilogies, I strongly recommend you do it. However, and I know this is a kind of controversial take, because believe it or not, there are people out there that haven't seen Star Wars and haven't seen any of the films. If you are going to enter the Star Wars universe, can I strongly suggest that you do it in the order the movies were released? You'll get a lot more out of it, because you'll be able to pick up all the little cues and stuff like that. So don't start from Phantom Menace, because you can do that if you want. And I know people that have watched it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like, because they'll have the argument of like, well, isn't that how you're meant to watch movies? Yes, but we're watching a story here. And the story starts with A New Hope, and we sort of jump back and forth in the timeline. So if you haven't seen Star Wars, I don't know why you just watched me and Herbz talk an hour about it.
I know a couple of people.
but if that is the case, then by all means, I strongly recommend start off with A New Hope and work your way back in the order it was released.
Yeah, definitely. That is without doubt the best way to do it. Like, I know I'm one of the ones that's guilty of watching it in chronological order, because I think it's like it's a chapter of each movie's a chapter of a book.
Yeah, but that doesn't work for you.
Yeah,
but it doesn't work for you because you've already seen it in the order it came out. So you can't do that unless we wipe your brain and then you go back and watch it once. That rule doesn't apply to you.
Yeah, because like it doesn't apply to Ned either, because like he's done the same thing. Like the three of us, we grew up with the original
trilogy. It's always sort of been that we had the original VHS. So when we think of the complete saga, for a long time until 1999, it was 3 movies.
Yeah, that was it. It was just what was called Star Wars at the time. It wasn't A New Hope when it first came out. It was just Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Or Revenge of the Jedi, as it was originally going to be called, for the diehard Star Wars sleuths. But Revenge of the Sith just sounds a lot better than Revenge of the Jedi, I think. So that works a lot better there. But dude, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Video Vault. It has been an absolute ton of fun. I can't wait to get you on again. For the viewers or listeners, what is coming up on Grey Wolf Wrestling?
Man, we've got some cool stuff in the pipeline. So Simon and I, we've got another edition of Reliving the War coming up. As Herbz mentioned very kindly too, I should point out, we've got Spring Stampede, which is currently in the Grey Wolf Wrestling archives at the moment. But we've got another In Your House coming your way. Simon and I are going to be watching that. I think it's one of the last In Your Houses before we just sort of go to pay-per-view names. So that's going to be pretty exciting to see. And very exclusive, I'll drop it here first on the Video Vault. But Ned and I are actually working on a TNA podcast, which we're called Maximum Impact. That is coming to the Grey Wolf Wrestling Network as well. But the best way to get in touch is to follow us on the socials at Grey Wolf ENT. So that should be pretty cool.
Oh, definitely very, very hyped for the Maximum Impact podcast. And I'll put a link to the Grey Wolf social medias in the description below. Again, thanks for hanging out in the Vault, Nims. Looking forward to doing it again.
Hell yeah, man. Let's face it, there's a lot more videos. There's a lot more stuff that we need to get through. So I look forward to it, brother. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thanks very much. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out the video. If you like what you see, click that subscribe button. Make sure you dangle that notification cowbell. You can hit me up on all of my social medias, which will be down in the description box below. And I shall see you all next time around.